Oh, hello there, and thanks for joining Uncomplicated Math today. Today we're going to be looking at how to divide a fraction by a mixed number. And by the end of this video, you'll know the steps involved when dividing fractions by mixed numbers. So let's get started. So in question number 1, we're being asked to divide the fraction of 3/4 by the mixed number of 2 and 1/3. So looking over to the right-hand side here under our steps involved, we can see that our first step is to convert our mixed number to an improper fraction. And now, if you're unsure of how to do this, or you find at any point during this video that you're unsure of what we're doing, then I encourage you to pause the video and take a look at some of the video links in the description below, where we break down these processes into a lot more detail. So returning back to question number 1, we're going to convert this mixed number to an improper fraction. And to do this, we're going to multiply the value of our denominator by the value of our whole number. And 3 times 2 gives us 6, plus the remaining 1 part for our numerator. 6 plus 1 gives us 7 for 7/3. Now we're going to write out the rest of this division problem so we don't get confused for when we move on to step number 2, where we're going to work through the fraction division steps in order to divide these fractions. And those steps are keep, change, and flip. So for the keep step, we're going to keep our first fraction the same. 3/4 is going to remain 3/4. But then we're going to change the operation here. So instead of dividing, we're now going to be multiplying. And the reason that this works is because dividing two fractions is the same thing as multiplying the first fraction by the reciprocal of the second fraction. And that's where our flip step comes in. We're going to flip the second fraction so the denominator becomes the new numerator and the numerator becomes the new denominator for the reciprocal of our second fraction. So 7/3 now becomes 3/7. So now we're going to move on to step number 3, where we're going to multiply these fractions. So starting with our numerators, when we multiply 3 times 3, we get 9. And then for our denominators, when we multiply 4 times 7, we get 28 for 9/28. So now we're going to move on to step number 4, where we're going to simplify this fraction. And since there's no common multiple between 9 and 28 other than 1, this fraction is already written in its lowest possible terms, so we can't simplify it. So when we divide 3/4 by the mixed number of 2 and 1/3, we get the answer of 9/28. So now we're going to move on to question number 2, where this time we're being asked to divide the fraction of 5/8 by the mixed number of 1 and 2/6. So remembering our first step is to convert our mixed number to an improper fraction. And to do this, we're going to multiply the value of our denominator by the value of our whole number. And 6 times 1 gives us 6, plus the remaining 2. 6 plus 2 gives us 8 for 8/6. And now we're going to write out the rest of this division problem so we don't get confused for step number 2, where we're going to keep, change, and flip. So we're going to keep our first fraction the same. 5/8 is going to remain 5/8. We're going to change the operation, so we're going to be multiplying. And then we're going to flip our second fraction to give us the fraction of 6/8. So now we can move on to step number 3, where we're going to multiply these fractions. So starting with our numerators, when we multiply 5 times 6, we get 30. And for our denominators, when we multiply 8 times 8, we get 64. So now we're going to move on to our last step, where we're going to simplify this fraction. And in this case, both 30 and 64 are multiples of 2, so we're going to divide both our denominator and our numerator by 2 in order to simplify this fraction. So when we divide 64 by 2, we get 32, and when we divide 30 by 2, we get 15 for 15/32. So when we divide 5/8 by the mixed number of 1 and 2/6, we get the answer of 15/32. So hopefully by now you understand the steps involved when dividing a fraction by a mixed number. Help make math less complicated by smashing those like and subscribe buttons. As always, enjoy today's math journey.